St Mary's began life in probably around 1160 when they built a small church with a big tower, and we've still got the tower that the Normans built. It's the lower two levels of the present tower that anybody can see from outside, and then a tiny little church going westward from it. After that, let's say in the 14th century, sometime in the 14th century, a much bigger stone church was built, and you can still see some of the walls inside the church of that original building. By about 1820, they realised that the church wasn't quite big enough, wasn't quite the style of the age. There were some fairly prominent Protestants worshipping in the church, and among them particularly James Watt, who was a Scotch Presbyterian, who did not like all of the ornate design within the church. So in the 1820s they thought about changing the church. They didn't enlarge it very much at that stage, but they completely changed the appearance of the interior of the church. It was very Georgian, it was very light and high and slender, pillars and all sorts of things. I don't think they did a very good job in the 1820s, and they had to rebuild it and enlarge it in the 1880s, and that's what you see now. Basically a very large Victorian church full of pews and full of history, with quite a lot of notable people buried largely under the church, because we only had a very small churchyard. We have Matthew Bolton, we have James Watt, we have William Murdoch, all very much involved with the Industrial Revolution, and then we have quite a lot of other people, and they have statues or memorials around the church. Part of the reason that I wanted to come to Handsworth was because of the atmosphere of faith within the community. In some ways, people thought I was mad to come to Handsworth. In other ways, I was thinking, well, actually, I'd rather be like it is in Smethwick, where you've got people who pray, people who actually talk to God and believe in God, whatever their faith. Getting to know the people there, working with a new head teacher there and the pupils there and the staff there. And that really was a way of getting to understand even more the local community. But then, there were things like parent and toddler groups. We introduced a children's area into the church, which is a sign that families with young children are welcome. That was very good, how that began to grow. Part of the ministry here has been 19 and a half years, feels a bit like 19 and a half months. It has gone so quickly. People, a couple of years ago, at the Christmas morning service, there were only 40 people in the congregation, and amongst them there were 17 different nationalities. So different heritages, different traditions, all sorts of things, you're caught up with. That also plays a part really in the number of weddings that we have to do and the people that you meet. I've had to conduct weddings here for people who couldn't even speak English, some of them. It's quite extraordinary. Ethiopians marrying Eritreans, Vietnamese marrying British, all sorts of things. So it's kept me fresh and alert during all those years. And it's just wonderful being able to mix with people within the community, usually people of other faiths, but people who were interested, wanted to know what it was all about, and then you go from there and you get to know a little bit about them and they invite you to things and so on. So it's been a very exciting and stimulating ministry, which has perhaps stopped me feeling stale. And I'm hoping that, although I'm leaving now, that sort of ministry is going to continue, and that openness to the community, because we can have television camera crews come from China to film the place and some of the industrial revolutionary people who are buried here. we have people from all over the world come to visit these particular monuments. But unfortunately, you know, it's the people who live within the mile or two that adjacent to the church that haven't really heard very much about their historical heritage. And I'm hoping that, you know, as time goes on, and part of the whole business of legacy will promote a better understanding, a better awareness of the heritage that is embedded here in Handsworth, and which, in places like, well, I'm going to say, you know, like St Mary's School, but many another school, that diverse culture and heritage that now exists within the community is being celebrated and is welcomed, certainly, by the church and embraced by the church. And we need to consider how, together, we can look at what is here, what people bring with them, and how we can bring it together, because in the best of our schools we are actually modelling and certainly helping develop the community of the next generation, and making such a difference to how it has been for the past 50 years, how it has been emerging and all the rest. But in the best schools now, you know, this is something that we can really celebrate and bear in mind that responsibility of all the heritages that we bring together. And it's all important that we all listen to one another and appreciate one another and try to bring the best of all that we have together to make good community in the present and model it for the future.